There's a lot going on in the news. The problem is we don't trust the news all that much. It's difficult to know what's true because the media lies so often. Many people come to me and they say, Tim, how can we explain to people the media is lying to them? And it's very difficult. We are fortunate to have an admission in today's major news cycle from the Washington Post. USA Today removes 23 articles, says reporter fabricated sources. Now, they may come to you, your friends and family, and say, well, you know, they admitted it. And these things happen. Sometimes there are bad people and all. That's true. But let this just be another grain of sand in the heap. If someone comes to you and says, I trust the news and I don't believe you, show them this. How was it that USA Today was allowed 23 articles with fabricated sources to get posted? Now, let me ask some questions. Do they not have fact checkers? Do they not have editors or an editor-in-chief? What is the process by which they actually verify the news that's being reported on their platform? To put it another way, if this reporter, who I believe her name is, Gabriela Miranda, she resigned from the paper. She had fabricated sources. So what was happening was that this woman was writing fake news, uninhibited. Publish, done. Was there no process by which an editor looked at the piece and checked it? Well, the reality is maybe. There's probably an editor, but they just assume it's true. I was at Politicon, which is a political convention, every year. And they had a panel with a bunch of left personalities talking about news and fake news. And I said, when they were talking about fake news and trusting the mainstream press, I said, how do you know that they're telling the truth when they don't even employ fact checkers anymore? And I was told, well, the journalists are the fact checkers. I mean, that's what they do. I said, how about that? Now, to be fair, the staff at timcast.com is particularly small. And we don't have fact checkers right now. We are in the process of trying to. There's a lot going on. We're new. Obviously, the newsroom isn't that old. It's only about a year old compared to the Washington Post's storied legacy. But we're in the process of filing the paperwork to set up a nonprofit so that we can have an independent organization doing fact checking for us as well as other organizations. So we're getting to that point. I'm not going to come out here and claim that we're, necessarily doing a better job in terms of do we have fact checkers and a staff. What we have at timcast.com is that when someone writes an article, it goes to two different individuals, our executive editor and our editor-in-chief, who review it. And to the best of our abilities, try to determine whether or not it's true. But we don't publish nearly as much as the Washington Post. And then I also read through the stories and very often will kick things back and say, that doesn't seem to be true. So we do have a process by which we are fact checking, which apparently the Washington Post doesn't. I'm not going to pretend again that, I don't know, maybe these things happen. That's fair. Maybe they just made a big mistake. But my point is, USA Today, NewsGuard certified. This is the point I want to make. Right now, timcast.com is undergoing a review by NewsGuard. You can see up here that NewsGuard is a third-party certification agency that determines whether or not your outlet is typically credible or not credible. That's basically how they do it. You get a green check or you get a red exclamation point. There's a deeper review to the process, a deeper rating system. But let's talk about that. Timcast.com from NewsGuard says this website is in the process of being rated or reviewed. I do like NewsGuard. I do. But there's a problem here. The problem is institutional and legacy bias has polluted our system and has broken it. Right now, with one of the biggest scandals in media we have seen in a long time, that USA Today a woman resigned because she was fabricating stories, outright making things up. All right, let's go to the front page of the USA Today. Where's that apology? Let's see. We've got top headlines. Blonde teaser. Anna de Armas as Marilyn Monroe. Transgender athlete bans could be the beginning, advocates warn. For Trump, theory about Pence. Check your Gmail. Alzheimer's, life's changing. Okay, Ukraine moves close. Where's the story where they admit in big, bold, front page, we posted fake news and lied to you? It's not there. Bravo. Bravo, ladies and gentlemen. So as we are now experiencing a major scandal, and this is serious, 23 stories. How much you want to bet it was more? The only reason, in my opinion, with my experience in news, the only reason they're admitting this is because it was so egregious or they got caught. Someone probably brought it up to them and said, we're going to expose you. And they went, uh-oh, what do we do? Quick, throw the reporter under the bus. No, they like the fake news. They like the fake stories. Let me tell you how it works, my friends. You work for one of these outlets. You can write a headline saying, Donald Trump steals puppy from child. A ridiculous story that no one should believe, but these people just tend to believe it, I guess. Well, the reality is liberals and conservatives, for different reasons, will click the story and share it like crazy. Now, let's say the USA Today does this. Do they run ads? Pretty sure they run ads. Do they have a subscription service? Pretty sure they have a subscription service. So when you get 1 million views on your fabricated article, you make, let's just say 1 million views, you're going to make maybe 5 to 10 grand on a typical ad CPM or something like that. No, I think actually, 5 to 10 grand. I think because they control their ads, it may even be upwards of 20 or 20,000, maybe even $40,000 off 1 million clicks. I don't know for sure. The next day, they issue a retraction saying, oops, that was fake news. We're so sorry. Can you sue when they defame you with this fake news? You need to prove damages. You need to prove they knew it was false. The retraction gets only a few thousand views, but they still make money on it. Is USA Today going to return the money to the advertisers that they made off this fabricated news? No. They get to keep it. The economic incentive is to lie and then just apologize. Whoopsie. Good luck suing. The standard is insane. And this is where we are today. The Washington Post reports, not that I trust them either. USA Today removed 23 news stories from its website Thursday after an internal audit concluded that the reporter who wrote them misattributed quotes and in some cases may have fabricated interviews and sources. Amazing. I've had journalists do this to me. I believe it was New York Magazine or the New Yorker? I think it was New Yorker. I think it was. So forgive me, I'll just say in my best estimate, there was a reporter who took 2 different quotes from me, mashed them together to make it seem like one quote, and it was a fabrication. But I actually said those things. That was their argument. They refused to correct and retract and ultimately ended up issuing, I say refused because the correction they issued was a sneaky, it was sneaky BS. They said, we removed a quote from Tim Pool because it contained errors. And then I got accused of lying because people assumed it meant the errors came from me. You see how they play these dirty games. This is why you don't respond to the press. It's why you don't give them answers. It's why you don't talk to them, because they will lie, they will cheat, and they will steal. The breaking news reporter, Gabriela Miranda, has resigned from the newspaper and could not be reached for comment. USA Today has removed nearly 24 stories she wrote between spring 2021, TikTok bans milk crate challenge from its app, citing concerns over dangerous acts, and spring of this year. This is my land. I stay. These Ukrainian women are among thousands choosing to fight, not flee. Fabricating pro-war propaganda, too? Okay, come on. It was an audit, they say. They released a list of removed articles as well as a brief account of its investigation, which the company said began with an external correction request several weeks ago. And there it is. Someone else said, take a look into this, and they knew they were busted. The audit eventually broadened to encompass a wide swath of her reporting, which focused on trending topics and viral stories. Now, look, these things do happen. I think it's fair to point out that they dropped the ball on this one and had a reporter producing fake news for a long time. We've had our issues at timcast.com with articles that need corrections. Fair point. But 23 articles? Is there no fact checker? You know what? I'm just going to put it this way. How do you know any of your journalists are telling the truth? Take a look at NewsGuard over at USA Today. 100 out of 100. Still, after USA Today has admitted 23 stories were misattributed or even fabricated, NewsGuard's like, well, they're the most credible can be. Here's the game. NewsGuard, not all bad. I like them for a reason. But come on, NewsGuard. In response to this story, you should have immediately pulled their certification. Immediately. What is your justification for claiming that a powerful corporate press institution gets to retain a 100 out of 100 when they admitted to employing someone fabricating sources. Incredible. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's you know what? I'm going to do it. I've been in communication with NewsGuard. They've reached out to me about timcast.com. Let me tell you a story. NewsGuard emails a news outlet and they say, we have concerns about these stories. What say you? Let me pull up the nutrition label NewsGuard has. NewsGuard says, do you repeatedly publish false content? Do you present information responsibly? Do you regularly clarify errors? Do you handle the difference between news and opinion responsibly? Do you avoid deceptive headlines? Do you disclose your ownership and financing? Do you label advertising? Do you reveal who's in charge, including conflicts of interest? And do you provide the names of content creators along with contact or biographical information? I believe The Economist has a perfect score and doesn't do that. Here's the reality of what NewsGuard is. They're a biased establishment rating agency, and they exist to protect the ads of major corporations. And it's a clever business model. But there's no actual way to run a news certification agency, or at least in this way. Now, we have a plan on how we're going to do this over at Timcast, and that's why we're filing for a nonprofit. We're actually going to certify news agencies, and I'll tell you how. But first, let me tell you the story. So we get emails from NewsGuard because they're in the process of certifying timcast.com. And they say, we take issue with this one story. Now, to be fair, we had issues of a couple articles that appeared to be plagiarism. They were very, very similar. In some instances, it looked verbatim. I'm not entirely sure what the issue was. I don't handle editorial at timcast.com. We have Cassandra Fairbanks. I believe there were quote grabs from other articles. We don't allow that. I believe there was a potential issue of plagiarism. We outright said, no, correct it. Don't let it happen again. We take action on this. We have had at timcast.com incorrect articles. That's different from fabricating news. We had articles that were just wrong because one of our writers just got the facts wrong, and we took action on that. I take it very seriously. That is not an issue of anyone intentionally fabricating stories on our platform. So they reach out to us and they point these out. And I say, we correct instantly. You let us know. And if the correction is true, we will correct. So we took action, I think, on like 5 articles out of the thousands that we have, because I think we do a pretty good job. But one of the things NewsGuard asked was, we had an article on New Hampshire. New Hampshire's legislature had allowed, I think, ivermectin or something. The news article was straight news. New Hampshire legislature says this about this. We included quotes from them, and that was it. In a good faith attempt, we included statements from, I think, the FDA saying ivermectin doesn't work in treating COVID. They said, why didn't you include a study, a clinical trial showing that it was ineffective? And I said, excuse me? Are you emailing me suggesting an editorial change? Why would NewsGuard ask us about a potential editorial issue? It's not their position. Our article was 100% factually correct and even included assessments from the FDA in a good faith attempt. Now, so far, we haven't seen the release from NewsGuard as to what they're going to rate timcast.com. But here's another thing that happened the other day. Now, again, I can respect their attempt at fact-checking, but let's call it out because it needs to be called out. They emailed me and said, in a video you produced, you said Hunter Biden was helping secure funds for Ukrainian biolabs or something to that effect because you read a headline from the Daily Mail. That's right. I did not assert any facts, as I typically do not. I read news sources. And there's a reason why there is a little box here with my face, and the article dominates the page on YouTube, so that you can see the articles I'm reading are certified by a third-party agency. You may not like what I have to say, but I only use sources that have a third-party certification to check my bias. It protects me. Perhaps these sources are false. Don't know. The best I can say is I say, as much as I might not believe many of these outlets or trust them, I'm going to use sources if they're certified by a third party because it's fair. I'm not the end-all be-all of what is true and correct. So they emailed me and said, you made these claims, but it appears you are just repeating Russian disinformation. They said Daily Mail was just repeating Russian disinformation, and the emails had not been independently verified. Okay. So you know what I said? Did you not see in the video you are challenging the NewsGuard certification on this source? Did you not check to determine whether or not these emails had actually been independently verified? Because they have been. The New York Post and the Daily Mail both have asserted that they had independently verified the emails from Hunter Biden's laptop showing that he was trying to secure funds for these biolabs. At least that's what those stories said. And both the New York Post and Daily Mail are certified as credible by NewsGuard. This is the issue. What they really do is employ people who are just as bad at doing journalism as anyone else, who don't fact check and use their opinions to determine what is true. But here's the important point. Let me put it this way. USA Today is given a 100 out of 100, even though we know they fabricated news. Certainly, you could ding their credibility and say, USA Today is no longer deemed credible while we do an independent review of these stories. Here's the problem. Did NewsGuard, when they read these news stories, how do they know it's true? If I said in a news story that I independently verified an email, they would just say, not true. New York Times said it wasn't true. But I did. Are you calling me a liar? By all means, try and call me a liar. Let's see how courts handle defamation. I'm interested to see how NewsGuard is going to rate timcast.com, considering they tried questioning whether or not a story that from an outlet they certified as credible was true. They tried claiming that it was not verified and the statements were incorrect for me to read them. The fascinating thing, I was opining on a story from a news outlet they certified as credible. How dare you question me? You certified it. I was relying on your organization to assume these were true articles. USA Today, on the other hand, is proven to produce fabricated news, and you give them a perfect score. But the Daily Mail and the New York Post said they both independently verified the emails and the New York Times, and you dare email me saying they were not independently verified. This is the game, ladies and gentlemen. This is the corruption of the corporate press. Organizations like NewsGuard, they will give USA Today a perfect score under the assumption that what they're writing is true simply because they are corporate press. If the New York Times says Donald Trump farted, they'll say, oh, the New York Times said so, so it must be true. How else do you fact check these things? Did you contact our sources? When we read a story, do you then independently verify the emails to confirm the veracity of the claims made? No. You simply pull up PolitiFact, who was wrong, and say it must be true. This is the game of the corporate press, and it needs to be called out. So, when your friends and family say, how do we know it's true? You say, it's tough. It's hard to know if it's true or not. But at the least, the bare minimum, you should approach every single news story with a grain of salt, be it from Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. Do not just blindly watch CNN or MSNBC and assume they're telling you the truth. Now, we have our issues with Fox News' primetime opinion lineup. I am no fan of Hannity. I think MSNBC lies. I think CNN lies. There you go. What you need to do is try and get a balanced approach, a balanced news diet. But you need to question this machine. How is it that after I showed you this, let's play this again. USA Today had 23 articles with fabricated sources. I should say the reporter fabricated sources. 23 articles either were misattributed or fabricated. And they're rated the most credible by NewsGuard. That NewsGuard would use USA Today as a fact checker. That USA Today is an approved Facebook fact checker. How do you know? It's tough, isn't it? Now, I will say this. When I'm reading the news, if I see an outlet with a red exclamation point from NewsGuard, I will ask why, and I will check. And typically, it turns out they're not that credible. But it doesn't always mean their stories are wrong. I think Breitbart gets a red exclamation point, even though a lot of their reporting is actually good. USA Today fabricated news, they get a green check mark, so it's not perfect. It is a basic bias check. I know NewsGuard's biased. I know they're establishment shills. But at the very least, I'll say, okay, if it were me choosing my own sources, that would probably be a heavy bias. Let me only use sources we agree on. The establishment says this is credible. Okay, then I'll only use those sources with some very rare exceptions, like Project Veritas. They've rated Project Veritas as a red exclamation point, even though Veritas just publishes videos showing people saying things. So I take issue with that. But I will use them, and then come at me, bro. That's the point. When I reported on Hunter Biden and his dealings in Ukraine, it was based off of 2 NewsGuard certified sources. So I get these people emailing me saying, how do you answer this claim, Mr. Poole, that you said this thing, which is Russian disinformation? My response is, I don't know. Ask NewsGuard. They certified it to be true and correct. The outlet, not the story individually. But what am I supposed to do if NewsGuard gives me a green check mark and says the platform is credible? They're playing a dirty game. We know that they publish fake news and they get away with it. So this is the best we can do. But let this story be more evidence, another grain of sand in the heap, that they do lie to you. And only rarely do they get caught. We try to catch them every time we can, and we call it the lies and the fake news. NewsGuard doesn't. No, they're just, if you're establishment and you toe the line of the appropriate media narrative, then they'll give you that green check mark. So we'll see what happens with timcast.com. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.